Both myself and a number of activists, as well as a number of unions, felt that there was a bit of a gap within Scotland that needed to be filled within the STUC. And the feeling was that we did need a space for our own voice and issues to be heard nationally. And it was really important that we pushed this forward with the help of the STUC in creating a platform for us to be able to air our concerns and push our equality issues to the forefront and to make them heard. What I would say is that the work of the committee is incredibly wide-ranging and varied, and there's lots of different things that go on within committee. Not just the meetings themselves and trying to drive forward the issues that the conference asks us to take forward, but there's lots of things involving outside bodies, trying to maintain relationships with organisations. There's the chairings of meetings. And also for myself, I think, being chair in the run-up to the referendum campaign, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't mention the referendum campaign too much, but certainly in the run-up to it, it was quite interesting trying to chair public meetings and trying to retain kind of a bit of a neutral persona, and that could prove to be quite testy at times. I would certainly suggest that anybody who's got a notion to do so should put themselves forward. Have a discussion with your own union, get yourself nominated and get out there and get on with it. There really is a need for a breadth of experience from lots of different backgrounds is needed on the committee, and that helps to ensure there is diversity in taking forward the issues. And it also helps create greater experience and a greater depth of knowledge for us in our campaigning. So certainly be brave, step up. I think you'll find that the camaraderie and the support that you get with being on the committee will certainly help shake off any nerves. Trying to take forward work into the Scottish Parliament is a bit of an adventure, and we did this on a couple of occasions, taking members of the committee into Parliament as part of Trade Union Week, which allowed us, to be fair, it allowed us to have direct contact with MSPs, and we were able to lobby, if you like, and get some of our main points and issues across. A lot of the debate around trans rights at the moment has become quite ugly. A lot of the language that's been used demonstrates that there really is a need for us to keep fighting and showing solidarity and to push equality forward further within the UK. We have seen recently an insidious return of the use of language to attack the LGBT plus community. Recent attacks on Stonewall have shown this. Certainly globally, the same issues still arise globally. We've got places around the world where it's still illegal to be an LGBT plus person, and we need to show solidarity and support those people in these countries who face persecution every day just for going about their daily lives. Enjoy the rest of the conference. It's always a great experience, even with it being online in these days of COVID. It's a great opportunity to catch up with each other and to keep in touch and to keep fighting. Cheers.
I got involved with the committee in 2012 when I attended the inaugural STUC LGBT Workers Conference, and I was very honoured to be elected onto the first STUC LGBT Workers Committee. I felt that there was a need to bring together LGBT plus workers from a broad range of unions to progress LGBT plus issues across the trade union movement and the wider community, and being formally part of the STUC would allow this to happen. My experience of the committee was a very positive one, a strong feeling of solidarity from trade union comrades committed to working together to progress LGBT plus rights. One highlight from my term as chair of the committee was at the 2015 STUC Congress, where I had the privilege of chairing a fringe event organised by the LGBT plus committee and the Young Workers Committee. The topic was homophobic bullying in schools and further education. We'd been unsure about how many people might attend, but the room was soon packed. I remember being impressed by how many Congress delegates from a range of unions and professions were asking questions, wanting advice, and apologising to our brilliant young guest speakers for what they had endured. For me, it was fantastic to hear delegates ask what could they do to help, and many of those delegates went on to promote and support the work that the STUC LGBT+ committee was doing on inclusive education. In 2021, we've seen attacks and challenges by far-right groups and their allies rise not only here in Scotland, but around the world. If you look at the range of issues raised by workers, you realise why we must keep fighting for equality in our workplaces and the wider world. As LGBT+ workers, we know what battles we still have to fight and win, and that means organising to win in the workplace, in our communities, in parliaments and around the world. Being a member of the committee has, for me, been a very rewarding experience, albeit challenging at times. Over the years, the committee has evolved through a mixture of experienced and newer members, and the positive solidarity of working together to empower LGBT+ workers continues to shine brightly. I know that I've made friends for life through my involvement with the committee during the last 10 years, and I will look back proudly on the work that we did. It's like being part of a big, safe family where, despite coming from a broad range of trade unions, we're all fighting for the same aim. Support, advice and encouragement is always there when needed. So why not get involved and help to make wins for you and future generations?
Hi, I'm Pam Curry. I'm a member of the EIS and I was President of LGBT Workers in 2016-17. I got involved in the committee after the very first conference in 2011. I really didn't know very much about it at all at the time, but that conference really opened my eyes to the idea that as a trade unionist, you're not just part of your own workplace and your own sector, you're part of a wider movement of people with shared experiences, shared interests, shared aims, particularly in the LGBT community. And so I was really keen to get involved in the work of the committee. My year as chair was in 2016-17. I wasn't a particularly good chair because most of that year was taken up with a national dispute in the further education sector where I worked at the time. One of the highlights was that we won that dispute about an hour before the conference started, which did make me late for conference. But obviously that year I had lots of discussions within my union, within the wider education sector, about LGBT issues, and the fact that I was chair of the committee really helped to raise that profile. I was really aware that year that not only was I one of a very, very small number of women ever to have held national positions in EIS Fella, but also one of a tiny number of out LGBT people to have held national office in the EIS. And I felt that it was really important to raise the profile of those issues and to use that position to do that. The second highlight was actually about a month after the conference at EIS AGM. And the strange thing about this highlight is that I wasn't actually even at the AGM at that point. I'd gone off to sit an exam in Dundee and the AGM was in Perth. But that was the year the EIS voted unanimously to affiliate to the Thai campaign after quite a bit of discussion and quite a bit of concern around denominational schools, around issues around teacher training. And I was so proud of the fact that not only was I not at the conference, but that the motion was moved and seconded by allies, by two straight men, two male colleagues of mine, one of whom works in the denominational sector, another of whom is on a parent teacher council in the denominational sector, and the conference voted for it unanimously. And so I felt so proud at how far we had come in that such a short space of time. I think the LGBT Workers Committee has been hugely important in my own union in giving us an impetus to discuss these issues and really taking things forward. My own union obviously particularly affected by Section 28, and I think the education sector continues to be affected to this day. But as a trade union, we're making real leaps and bounds in terms of taking forward these issues. And I think the STUC LGBT Workers Conference and LGBT Workers Committee have had a huge role to play in that. And I'm really proud to have been a part of it.